today's tutorial is for these here posing blocks, which are made out of yoga block material. I like to use a whole bunch of different posing aids. I have purchased a whole bunch. We have the posing beans. I've made little pillows. I've used these yoga blocks. I purchased some other foam posers. I have a lot of different ones. These actually were a saver for me when I was first starting out. So the problem with these is they're not quite wide enough. But when you're first starting out and you don't have a lot of money, these are really handy. So there are ways you can use these and then just add a little bit of extra pillows on the side. But these are really great posing aids when you're first starting out. So I'm going to show you how to make those real quick. But this is what they're kind of going to look like. As you can see, once you cut them, they are kind of messy. So when you first start using them, they're going to shed a little bit just from the flakes from where you cut them. They don't need to look pretty because they're going to be underneath a bunch of fabric when you pose, but just keep that in mind. They're not going to look great. Now you will have some flat side, so I often just put that on top, you know, so that it's not getting my blanket, my good blanket, all messy. But either way, it works just fine. What you're going to need is a yoga block like this. You can get them off of Amazon or in any, you know, Walmart, in the sporting goods area, anywhere that sells sporting equipment, you can find these yoga blocks. I've looked and looked, I can't find them wider than this, but if you can find a longer one, even if it was just like 2 or 3 inches longer, that would be a lot better. I'm especially thinking of chin on hands for this. The baby fits fine, but their elbows go down just a little on the sides. So when I use this for a pose like that, I do have to put a little bit of stuffing or pillows on the sides just to hold their elbows up more. For everything else, it works great. The bum up pose, the froggy, every other pose works fine. It's just that chin on hands where it's not quite long enough. But like I said, for starting out, you can't beat the cost. These are like $20 and you can get like, let's see, 1, 2, like at least 3 posers out of this. So I'm going to show you right now how we're going to do that. All right, so here we've got our block, and I'm going to measure it just so you know. It is about 9 inches long, 4 inches wide, or deep, I guess, and 6 inches wide. First thing I'm going to do when I made my very first set is I cut this in half, and that kind of gave me this size. So if you can see, that's like half, and then I used the remainder to make my other posers. So we're gonna just grab a pencil and we're just gonna start marking on this. So it's about 6 inches, maybe a little less than 6. So I'm gonna make it a little taller than 3 just to make sure I have enough room. So I'm gonna do like 3 1/4 probably. And you just kind of mark down, measure it off. Okay, and that's where we're gonna cut. Now I would recommend doing it on both sides because I will probably cut through halfway on each side just to make sure that it's completely straight. So we've got our mark. Okay, make sure they're about even, and they look to be. Okay, and then you can use any kind of cutting tool. The first time I used this, I actually used an electric knife like you would use to cut bread or anything in the kitchen. Today I'm going to use just a little hand saw. But any way you can cut through it will work. Just going to use a little hand saw here. Just try to keep it really straight. Getting started, it's going to be the hardest part. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to turn this over. So I've got about an inch in, inch and a half. I'm going to turn it over just so I make sure I'm going straight and kind of aim for, oh, you know what I did? I didn't line those up. Look what I did. I measured the wrong direction. So I'm going to have to do this again. We're actually going to go, yeah, this way. Good thing I checked that. Okay, now it should match up. You were probably all screaming at the video, like, no, you're measuring the wrong spot. Yeah, that's why you check, right? Okay, so now that line will line up with that line. When I checked it earlier, you all probably saw it on camera and I couldn't see it in person. Okay, so we're gonna try to go straight down and meet that line from the other side. There we go. See, we're connected, just a little bit left. Okay, got our two halves. One should be, yes, as you can see, one is just slightly taller than the other, which I wanted. Okay, and now to get this shape, you just have to carve it into a rounded shape. Basically what you need is you want, when the baby is posed down here, you don't want any sharp edges because they won't have that natural fall off with their body. And we're gonna have a bunch of blankets on here and you just want a nice gentle slope off. So that's why you need to round the edges off. And you can do that again, any way that works for you. Just kind of carve it off. I'll do that in a second. But let's talk about the remainder. Okay, I have done this, when I made my set, I actually got two of these because I used one for the big one. And then out of the other half, I cut lifters. So these 1-inch lifters, okay? So you could probably get 3 lifters out of this. And the other block I made like a smaller version of this as like a foot piece or a butt piece. So you might want 2 blocks so you can make different size shapes. So basically what I did was, before, I used like that much for a foot piece. And then that left this chunk over here. And I used that little end basically as just like an extra lift or a support as needed. So it could be for an elbow, it could be in a bucket, you know, anywhere if you just need to lift up a foot, there's just an extra little chunk there. So for today, I am going to use this as like a butt piece or a foot piece, but if you want lifters, you're just going to divide this equally into about 3 strips and cut them straight across. So the lifters are for when you have this down on your posing table or bean bag or whatever you're using, and then you need some more lift on the baby, you shove this in there, okay? And you kind of would pose it or set it up like that, okay? If you need more height, you would just stack these underneath there. So just like that. So yeah, that's how you do those. But right now I'm just gonna make like a foot piece and then round these off, and then I'll be back and show you then. Okay, so that looks pretty good for a foot piece. It may be a little too thick, it might be a little too tall, but I'll probably try it with the baby first before I trim it more. But basically just rounded it off. Doesn't have to be real pretty. And then again, you've got this little piece that's left. I would just clean this up, again, round off the edges. All right, so here's this extra little piece. Just need to finish rounding that part off, but that's what it'll look like. Okay, so we've got a foot piece, another little foot piece, and now for the big guy. So when I do this, I always just start off basically going straight down at an angle on each side. So we're gonna kind of cut like this and this. I'll kind of draw that for you. So I'm first gonna cut straight, like straight down, and then I'm gonna round it off. So eventually this will be nice and round, like that. Okay, then we just need to smooth that out so it's not so jagged right there. Okay, looks pretty even if you look from the side. Again, the top's gonna be ugly, but you're not gonna see that. Oh, looks like right there could use a little bit more trimming. There we go, that's better. Okay, so if you look at my old one and my new one, I did make this one intentionally a little taller. So you can see it sticks up just a little bit more, but that's basically how you do it. And then these will go underneath the blanket when you're posing your newborn. So hopefully that's a helpful hack to you. Good luck, and I hope to see your poses soon with these.